Hello, everyone, and welcome to our weekly videos. This week's topic that we got from a comment of ours is discernment. We're going to talk about discernment. I know that we did a video about it before, but we feel like we need to update the topic of discernment. So why don't we start with you, Peyton?
Thanks, Corey. Yeah, this is a big topic in the spiritual community, but I feel like it's one that not everyone even knows what we're talking about. I know that when I first heard this word and teachers started talking about it, I'm like, what does that even mean? Because it's kind of a strange word. So when I think of discernment, or when I talk about how we build discernment and why it is so important, for me, what it means is the ability to look beyond the face value of something. So to kind of look behind the curtain of something that is being presented to you. And so for me, of course, being an intuitive, discernment means looking at the energy behind something I'm listening to or something I'm watching to see if the energy matches what's being said. So when I think of discernment, for me, it's about looking behind the curtain to see if everything matches up. Because so many of us, especially if we were raised in Western culture, have been kind of programmed to blindly believe anything we're told, right? You see it on TV, so it must be true. You heard someone with a huge following say it, so it must be true. And what we're realizing as people on our spiritual path, that is very much not the case. And so what do you do then when, as you go through your spiritual path, you realize that a lot of what we have been taught, a lot of what we are hearing is either not correct or a flat out manipulation. So when we start to realize that so much of our world is not what it seems to be, it can be a little destabilizing, because then how do you navigate life if you can't believe what you're seeing and you can't believe what everyone is telling you? So for me, discernment becomes how we as light workers and starseeds navigate our life. Because again, especially as things kind of melt down in the 3D world, we're having to find a new way to operate, to sort out true from false, to sort out who is in integrity and who's just putting on a good show. We need a new way to navigate. And so for lightworkers and starseeds, discernment is how we do that. And what that means is learning to really navigate through our intuition. And so for me, the way this plays out is learning to question everything we're hearing and seeing. Because again, we're just so programmed to believe whatever is being sold, but that's part of the Matrix game. The whole game of the Matrix is to keep us in fear so that we keep playing the 3D game. But as lightworkers and starseeds, we have to see through some of those things we have been programmed with in order to really complete our ascension process. And so that is why discernment becomes such a big deal, because it's how we go about doing that, how we look to see what is really true and what is maybe not so much. So how do you do that? How do you develop discernment? Well, it's one of those things that you have to just practice. It is not something that happens automatically or overnight. It is not a one and done process. Discernment is something, it's like building an intuitive muscle. So discernment is something that you have to practice and practice until it becomes automatic. And so for me, the best way to start developing your discernment and building it is to listen to your body. And the three of us talk about this all the time, how the easiest way to connect with your intuition is to listen to the feedback your body is giving you, because your body is your connection to your intuition. And the more you listen to it, the more your intuition talks to you. But it takes a little trial and error to kind of learn the language, the way that your intuition talks to you. So for me, the best way to go about building your discernment is to start running everything you see and hear through your intuition. Just check in with your body as you're listening to someone talk, or as you're watching that video, or when you're following that person that you've always followed on social media. How does your body react to that information? Because your body will give you the feedback of whether something is in line with your truth or whether it's not. And so for me, that's the easiest way to start developing this talent of discernment. And again, this is what we are going to have to learn to move forward into the higher realms of the ascension process, because it helps us weed out what is true and what is false. So as the guides are encouraging us, it's time for us to be very careful with any external information we are relying on, whether that's a person, a video, a teacher, and to just start double checking everything against our intuition. Because again, your intuition will tell you thumbs up or thumbs down. So that's how I am looking at discernment, and why I think it's such a big deal, and why it's really so important for really all light workers and starseeds. How about you, Yaila? How does discernment come up for you?
Yeah, I love your definition for discernment, Peyton. I think that was a really great definition. So when I think of discernment, it's similar lines of, it's more about your intuition. And it's kind of funny because when I went down the path of learning about energy work, it honestly was more, I didn't realize it at the time, but it was really my path of learning discernment. I wanted to understand, is this just like an inner trigger that I have to a situation? Is this some kind of bias that was in my space? Is it really my intuition? You know, what am I really seeing, sensing, feeling, knowing? And learning how to strengthen my intuition and really understand the energy that was coming to me was probably the best path that I learned discernment with. In hindsight now, at the time, that wasn't my goal. It was really just to get unstuck from where I felt stuck. But one of the beautiful additional benefits that I learned was discernment. And so discernment for me is very similar of how Peyton was describing it. It's really filtering it through your own intuition. And some of the questions that I like to ask, I feel like the more curious you are, the more questions you ask, the more you're going to start to define and start to fine tune your discernment, because you're going to bring in all of your different senses, your intuitive senses, especially like Peyton was saying, you're going to feel how your body feels. You're going to notice what other thoughts and questions pop up in your mind. You're going to notice just maybe what direction you naturally want to gravitate towards and which one you don't, based off of the questions you're asking and what you are receiving. And so some of the questions I like to ask are, one, and we've shared this in other videos, is it my energy or is it from somewhere else? If I'm hearing something or feeling something, or something gets stirred up in my space, first and foremost, I want to ask, is this even from me? Because of course, we're human, we have our triggers, we have our default ways of behaving and interpreting, and sometimes that's from trauma, so it's not from the present moment. So I like to ask, is this my energy? Is it coming from somewhere else? If it is my energy, I like to ask, well, what about this energy is causing me to think this, feel this, experience this? Where is that coming from? I just start to ask more and more questions until I have a clarity on what I need to know from that situation. And sometimes that's the question too. What about this do I need to know? Why is this important for me? Why is this showing up? If you feel like it, or think, or you kind of hear it's from somebody else, that energy is coming from an outside place other than you, then, from then you get to ask yourself, do I need to keep this, or can I, let it go? If you want to keep it, again, start asking more questions. Why is this showing up? What do I need to know? And so looking at the world around us right now, just like Peyton was highlighting, there's a lot of marketing. There's a lot of manipulative energy. There's a lot of energy behind people wanting you to buy into what they're selling, people wanting you to follow what they believe, people wanting you to act in a certain way based off of what they feel they need. And so when you're looking at how you're feeling, does it feel in alignment for you? Does it resonate with you? That's another word I like to ask. Does it really resonate with you? And again, there's a lot of people who can have big shiny accounts. They can have, I even feel like a lot of the news channels now, it's stuff that I used to really respect and really think very highly of. And I've just throughout the years, just the more and more I watched TV, I actually haven't watched TV for like 15 years, but when I was watching TV, I just remember I would always end up feeling drained or tired or more anxious, more sad. And it wasn't so much, not just the content that was on there, but my body started showing me that I just didn't really resonate with what was being shared and what was being said. So, going through just some different business coaches and training on, the little bit of marketing that I have, what I do know is there's a lot of money and research going into how things are marketed to you, how things are presented to you so that you'll buy into what they're selling. And sometimes buying into what they're selling is for their own personal gain. 9 times out of 10, it is. So you really want to check in for yourself and say, do I really need this? Does this resonate with me? Is this in alignment with where I'm wanting to go? Is it for me? Is it my energy? Is it not my energy? Start asking yourself a lot of questions, and that will help you. Again, notice just the response that you are naturally getting. Your body will always tell you what feels right, what feels wrong. Again, if it feels right, it's going to feel light. It's going to feel expansive. You're going to feel a lightness. You're going to feel an ease in your space, even if it is on a tough subject. When you pinpoint to a specific question, your body will feel more expansive. If it's not in alignment for you, it's going to feel more tight, more constrictive. I call it crunchy. It just feels like, it just doesn't work for you. And so take that into account from people you listen to, podcasts you listen to. I mean, there's so much coming at us from so many different directions that you really want to clear out of your space and go through, how are you receiving the information? Is it bringing you to an alignment to where you want, or is it keeping you stuck and looped and programmed and fear and all the other stuff where you don't want to be? So that's what I think of when I think of discernment. How about you, Corey?
Ladies, you are so fantastic. I just love what you both are sharing. So discernment, I got to say that discernment was difficult for me. For me, I always read people's souls. I mean, from the time I was born, judgment was not, I had certain judgment, but for some reason, I always was, tapping into people's souls. So I innately always saw everything and everyone as being good and loving and kind, until I really started taking clairvoyant classes. Then I realized, oh shoot, my whole life I've been interacting with people's souls, not their 3D bodies. And I was always so confused as to why these people, why people or things or situations weren't as I thought that they were. And so, and judgment to me always felt so bad. Discernment felt like judgment to me. And certainly I was judged a lot growing up and most of my life. And so I didn't want to be judgmental, because it was treat others as you want to be treated. I didn't want to be judgmental. So when I started doing, the clairvoyant and reading energy, I had to learn and discern what was somebody's soul energy and what their 3D human energy was. And that was mind-blowing to me. It was just mind-blowing. And for me, I had to remove the word judgment because for some reason, my soul did not resonate with judgment. So discernment, I loved what you ladies said. You know, discernment comes from your intuition. Judgment comes from old beliefs or your brain. So that was a process for me to first realize that what I was looking at, what I would actually was feeling. So one of the tools that I learned really early on was to muscle test, because I was in that process of discerning and not realizing I was discerning, but discerning, reading somebody's soul or their physical body, you know, their 3D body, was muscle testing. So I would stand up straight with my hands to my side and I would get relaxed. I would ask my body, okay, what is my yes? You know, naturally go forward or backwards. What is my no? Naturally backwards, whatever direction it was. And then I would ask myself the question, whatever it is that I needed to get to the root answer of. With putting the judgment aside. We had, Peyton and I had a teacher who, I love her to this day. She taught us about discernment. And one of the things that she had said was, and it was like, oh, such an epiphany. But what she said was, we all come into this earth plane. We signed up to learn certain lessons. So let's just say that you have a friend that thinks that this one teacher or place or even a meal is so unbelievable. And you try it and you go, I don't know, I don't like this, and then feel bad, or what's wrong with me? But it's not bad or good. It's just that your soul did not sign up for whatever is being presented to you. Maybe the other person did. So that was the beginning for me of discernment, was putting away that nasty word for me of judgment and realizing that I was resonating with what my soul signed up for. That to me was discernment. And how did I get in touch with that? It started with that muscle testing, you know. Is this right for me? Is this good for me? Is this true? Is this not true for me? And it grew and changed from there. The world today is really squirrely. It's very, very squirrely. And we have so much information coming out. And I'm grateful that I learned about discernment, because I was brought up, you just do what you're told. Don't question me. Don't question authority. Don't question doctors. Don't question the news. Don't question. Just do it. And I did that for a long time. Hard lessons I had to learn. And that's why we're doing this video on discernment, because I didn't know anything about it. I just thought it was always judgment. So like we always say, our bodies never lie to us. And so, yes, when you're watching television, reading something, even somebody that you're speaking to, and something feels off, use your intuition and ask those questions. You know, like Yaila said, ask yourself questions. Does that seem right to me? I was never brought up to ask questions. So asking questions for me was a learned trade to have. So does this feel right to me? Does that sound right to me? Not about them or anything else, just staying on my side of the street. Does this feel right to me? Does that sound right to me? Does that feel right to me? And that's the next step for me, was in that discernment. And we're mentioning it because, yes, the world is very squirrely right now. We're moving into that Aquarian age. And so old systems are being torn down. And there's a big struggle for those who have ruled this world for a long time. Does it mean that they're bad? Just not right. You know, just not right for who you are and what you resonate in. When I removed good, bad, right, wrong, for me, that's where I could get into discernment, by just asking my intuition and my body, does this sound right to me? Does that feel right to me? And I was able to start developing discernment. And it's important right now. It really is. You know, I'm glad that I, you know, like all us ladies, that we kind of did the discernment exercise many years ago. And to be able to have to be discern, you know, use your discernment in these days is tricky. It's really tricky. So that's why we're doing this video today, updating our discernment video that we did before, is because it's getting trickier. So don't beat yourself up. Don't think that there's anything wrong with you. Listen to your body. It never lies to you. And I loved, you know, ask the questions. Just, you know, ask the questions for yourself without judgment. Does this seem right to me? Does this feel right to me? And it's okay if the person sitting next to you resonates with that and it doesn't for you. It just means your soul did not sign up for the lesson that is there in front of you. One of the things that I don't know, the three of us got a long time ago, was that there's going to come a day where you will not be able to, you know, all of us will not be able to trust what we see. We will not be able to trust what we hear, but that our intuition is what was going to get us through these tough times. And I'm glad that my soul resonated with that, because for me, it's true. I don't know what I would do without my intuition and energy work. It taught me discernment. So let's see, anything else? I think that's about all I have thus far. Ladies, anything else? Well, thank you everyone for joining us with our videos. We love your comments. That's why we're doing this video today. So please like, share, comment, and we'll be back next week. And thank you all for watching. Bye for now.